This is the Hope Not Note podcast,
where we answer your questions and share inspirational stories to fill your soul with hope.
Our mission is to empower hope to those who have been plagued by note.
I'm Dr. Dylan Caswell.
And I'm Brandy.
And we're here to bring you out of the note and into hope.
Welcome to the Hope Not Note podcast. We have our coffee and we are excited that you are here listening.
Oh, I forgot my coffee.
I have my coffee. Dylan does not have his.
All right, we're going dry.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Today our question is from a listener named Tony. And Tony. He says, I have some shoulder discomfort while I'm bench pressing. Do you have any tips to alleviate the pain?
Yeah, I think the first tip, Tony, is don't give up bench pressing.
Yeah, of course.
I think I could go back and forth with this. I don't fully understand why it's tested in combines, like the NFL combine.
Yeah.
I can see it for like a lineman or someone that has to have a big horizontal push for like being successful in their position as an athlete. But other times I don't get why skill players, it's like, hey, how much can you bench 225? How many reps can you do? So I don't fully understand that part of it.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Is it in every combine for every sport or just football? Like, do they have to do it for basketball whenever they do that sort of thing? Or
No. And like, I think the combines have come a bit further where they're like, hey, why don't we test the things that we should be testing, like vertical jump. The NBA has different tests. NHL has some different tests, but bench remains in the NFL, and the last time that I checked, it remains in the NHL. But again, like as an athlete, you can opt out of certain ones in the combine. Like you don't have to do it. So maybe they leave it in there if it's like, hey, I want to show that like I'm a strong skill player. Then boom, I can drop down, and I mean you get 20 reps at 225. That can be an eye opener. So maybe it's a thing that like gets you on some scouts' radars compared to other things. But other than that, like I don't know, do you really need a quarterback bench pressing 225 for 30 reps? Like, probably not. I'd rather see like, hey, can they throw? Can they move? Do they have good mechanics, good throwing release? Like all the different mechanics they look at that of like, what's the spin on the ball?
Sure.
All that stuff it's more valuable. But Tony, the reason I'm saying that is because I'm sure that maybe you are, but I would guess that you're not benching to get ready for the NFL Combine. If you are, heck yeah, like let's go. But I'm sure that you're benching because you enjoy benching. And, I think a lot of times we will hear people in healthcare say like, well, don't bench anymore. It's a dumb exercise. You don't need to do it. It's not quote unquote functional. Like, hey, if you enjoy doing it, it's maybe what gets you to the gym is that like, hey, I get the bench press, and then you're doing other things around that. Like, don't give it up. Keep doing it. There's a lot of very simple fixes that we can start with, and then we can get into more of the nuance. So here's the simple part of it. Generally, well, let me start by saying this too. This is the most common that we see, most common discomfort / injury / question I feel like we get with fitness related athletes. It is so incredibly common. And partly because we have to look at workload. How often are you benching? At what intensity are you benching? And are you complementing your program to create some balance by doing some horizontal pulling? So that's the first. Let's see your program. And that's what we do when an athlete comes in and they have this discomfort. Hey, do you have your log of your program? And most athletes we work with actually have that log because they are very competitive. They're very like, they want to keep a log because it keeps them accountable. They're very into it. They're very focused, so they have the log. People that don't have the log, they can usually reference back and just generally look at their program and go, yeah, you know what? I bench heavy 3 times a week and I'm never really doing a heavy row. And so first, like just overall in your program, make sure that there's some type of balance. There's not a magic number for this, but just making sure that there is some type of balance, that the horizontal pulling is getting some attention while you're doing horizontal pressing. Because when we look at the pecs and the front of the shoulder, right, the pecs attached there, the lats are on the back, but then they come around to the front side to attach. These are 2 very powerful muscles. So we have to make sure that these muscles on the front of the shoulder are, as they're getting trained with horizontal pushing and pull-ups, that the muscles in the middle of the shoulder are getting trained with horizontal pulling. So just generally look at those things. 2, easy thing to do, modify the weight modify the range of motion.
Mm.
Most of the time when people have shoulder discomfort in a bench press, it's at the very bottom range when they get a little extra stretch at the end of their shoulder. If that's where you're feeling it, switch to a floor press because the floor is going to block you from getting deeper into that range, and you can still keep loading your horizontal press while protecting the shoulder. Do you have to do the floor press the rest of your life? No, but it might be something that you can do as a shoulder just takes a little bit of time to recover.
Mhm.
Most of the time, the body is going to heal itself. It's called the regression to the mean. And as long as we don't keep poking the bear as the healing is happening, it most of the time is going to take care of itself. So those are the kind of the simple things,
Mhm.
right? Look at your overall program and then look at modifying the weight. Like, is it happening when you're at 90% intensity? Is your programming like every week, Monday's bench press day, and you're going in and lifting one rep as heavy as you can? Like, hey, throw some variability in there. Decrease to 75%, do some more reps and see if that's a little bit nicer on your shoulder for a little while and then
Mhm.
go back up to that 90%. But like
Mhm.
if you stay at 90% all the time,
That's
like
just not wise in
it's
any
just not
program
wise.
with any movement.
Right. And like the movement system needs variability. And so having that variability, whether it's month to month, whether it's week to week, but just somewhere in your program, there should be variability
Mhm.
for long-term adaptations
Mhm.
and to help with your pressing.
Mhm. Another thing I was thinking about for Tony, but also other people listening, maybe they're saying, I don't really bench press that often, but I do 100 push-ups a day.
Hmm.
It's the same kind of concept. Like I remember when I was working in my previous job, that was like the thing. Like the everybody liked to do push-ups, and so they were doing push-ups and push-ups and push-ups, and a bunch of people kept coming to me and saying that they were having shoulder discomfort, and I'm like, well, yeah, you went from doing no push-ups to trying to do 100 a day, and you have not done any rowing in the midst of this new goal that you have. Cool goal, but you're setting yourself up for injury because of a lot of different factors in that setting. But with Tony or with other people, make sure that if you're not bench pressing, but you're doing all these push-ups, that you're still getting in the row as well, correct? But that's
100%.
also Tony could use this variability of instead of bench pressing 3 times a week, do push-ups on the
Yeah.
different days, but again, still make sure you're having the row.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to give you our quote unquote secret sauce because it's not really a secret and you should have it so that you can use it in your programming. But in our programming for Brandy and I, we do bench. We bench. Uh, well, I'll say it this way: we horizontal press twice a week.
Mhm.
We horizontal press heavy on Monday, and then every month we cycle between being on a flat bench, being on an incline bench, and being on a flat bench. We also have the variability of using a barbell and then using dumbbells depending on that 4 week cycle. So there's variability within the weighted horizontal pressing movement. And then later in the week, we do another session that has horizontal pressing in it, but that horizontal pressing is now push-ups, and in which one week we'll do more kind of endurance-based push-ups. How many reps can you do? And then another time, maybe the next week, we'll do heavy loaded push-ups. So like plate loaded on the back, do
Mhm.
push-ups with that, two, three. Hey, that's I get like benching 225 or 315, it looks cool. Hey, doing push-ups with 245 or 345 pound plates on your back, if you're doing it for the factor of trying to look cool, not that's why you should do it, but I'm just saying if that is it, like that looks freaking cool
It
too.
does
Like
look really
that is
cool.
beast mode horizontal pressing right there.
Well, and I feel like a beast. Not that I have 345s on, but like if you put a 25 or a 35 pound on and I can do it, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yep, yep, 100%. So it's just looking at it, switching up some variability, having some
Mhm.
different rep schemes, different intensities. I mean, Brandy, you nailed it. That went from zero to doing 100, 0 to 100.
Yeah.
Zero. That is a huge increase in workload. Like I'm sure like the horizontal pressing is almost like or sorry, the horizontal pulling, the rowing, it's almost like the cherry on top
Mm.
of like a very well programmed training program, but looking at it this way too of like, well, if they went from 0 push-ups a day to 10 push-ups a day, and then went from 10 to 20, and then 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, 80 to 100, or something along that where there's progressive overload instead of 0 to 100, like right off the bat, the likelihood of them having discomfort goes way down.
Hmm.
And then we add on horizontal pulling on top of that, and now that goes way down even further.
Hmm.
Can we ever 100% fully prevent injury? No. Can we get pretty close to doing so? Yes.
Hmm.
And that's how we would do that. And our program as well, like just to protect our shoulders, because we do a lot of overhead work, we make sure our pulling volume is 3 times the amount as our push volume.
Hmm.
And again, it's not matched intensity. Wait, like, we're not, hey, I'm gonna dumbbell press with 70s, so that means I'm gonna row with 70s. We're just looking at the overall volume, the repetition of getting our shoulders trained back in these positions with things like T's, Y's, W's, face pulls,
Hmm.
just to try to offset that a little bit. And again, that's the cherry on top of a very well designed horizontal pressing program.
Hmm.
So those are like the simple factors to look at first.
Hmm.
And Tony, hopefully that just hearing that is helpful because we know what it's like from working with all these athletes that come in with shoulder discomfort. And immediately the brain goes to like worst case scenario
Yeah.
of like, my shoulder's injured. Is it my rotator cuff? Is it my labrum? Am I ever going to be able to press again? Do I need shoulder surgery? Like, what do I do? And it freaks out. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, let's back up.
Hmm.
All that stuff, like, it is too soon to have that conversation. Let's look at the simple things, the low-hanging fruits of what potentially led up to this discomfort evolving
Hmm.
over time. Most of the time, you get the answer there.
Yeah.
But if not, well, we go a little bit of a step further. And the things we'll talk about going further, this is what we do when we're seeing people
Hmm.
and working with them. But that doesn't mean that you can't use them.
Hmm.
And I forget the name of the video, but we have an old YouTube video from our old studio
Hmm.
that goes through some of these things that we're going to talk about that you can see them in action and then use them
Hmm.
to assess for yourself and see, hey, is this something that I need to work on, or is this where I don't need to work on? Kind of like switch gears into this thing?
Yeah, and we'll link it in the show notes as well. So if you're intrigued and interested, you can go to our show notes and we'll have that YouTube video linked there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember the name of it? It was
I
Your
think
Body's Telling You Secret series, and it was
it was just like bench
bench
pressing, like
pressing.
secrets about the bench press that your body is telling you that you may not know. And we
Gotcha.
might have already spoiled some of those secrets, but
Ha,
if you want to visually see the actual movements and things that Dylan's going to explain, that YouTube video is for you.
perfect. Secret's out. So the other thing we want to look at after we look at those first two things that we mentioned is now we can start to dive into a little bit more of the nuance because most of the time, and I think Tony's question was my shoulder, not my shoulders.
Yeah, it was just
It was
one.
just one. And that is the most common pattern that we've seen. It's pretty rare that we get people coming in saying, I have bilateral shoulder pain
Hmm.
when I bench press. That can happen, not saying that that doesn't happen, but more times than not, it's one arm that is feeling the discomfort in that. Both arms are pressing if you're doing a barbell bench press. So why does one have discomfort and the other one doesn't, right? So this is where we have to start really getting into some of the nuances and figuring out, well, if you're constantly using a barbell and pressing, do you know what arm dominance that you have? Because if I'm on a barbell, my goal is that I have to push this off my chest. It doesn't mean I need to push it with equal strength off my chest. It just means I need to get this off my chest. So one arm, for all you know, could be doing 70% of the work while the other arm's doing 30% of the work.
Hmm.
One can be doing 60, one could be 40, one could be doing 80, one could be doing 20. Very rarely am I seeing people that have discomfort that it's an equal 50-50. And how do we check that? Well, we go away from the barbell and we can do something like a 3 rep max or a 5 rep max of a single arm dumbbell press.
Hmm.
Now, this does add in the factor of core rotational stability, right? Because you're using one as you're pressing up, so you got to kind of fight to not fall off the bench or on the floor to not like twist over. But it will give you a pretty good idea of arm dominance in a horizontal press. The other part I want to put into this too is that, like, we're talking about horizontal pressing, but remember that it's not just a chest or tricep movement. Like a good bench press, you're driving your feet into the ground. You are creating tension through your body to give yourself a stable foundation to then press this weight off of you. So it's not just a chest exercise or tricep exercise to the point that I kind of get bothered when people will set up for the bench press and bring their feet up on the bench.
Hmm.
And like, no, like you push through the ground.
Yeah.
Like if you want to build your chest and you want it to get bigger, load is the answer. Heavier loads are going to build it. not going to this lighter weight where you're not pressing with your feet and
Mhm.
going for 20 something reps. Like you are working endurance at that point, and endurance is not going to help you to build the girth of that muscle,
Mhm.
right? So just side note with that, feet on the floor, drive to the floor, but it's a whole body exercise. So looking at rotational core stability with a single arm dumbbell bench press, it's helpful, right? Because you're going to notice the difference if there is a significant difference. What's that significant difference? We look for less than a 10% difference
Mhm.
or more than a 10%. If it's more than a 10%, we're concerned. If it's less than 10%, we're like, yeah, that's good.
Mhm.
It's good enough. Let's go on to the next thing. So we're going to look at that. We're also going to look at kind of as an umbrella term of like shoulder stability, which the rotator cuff is a dynamic stabilizer. A lot of people go, oh, it's an external rotator. It is a dynamic stabilizer, meaning that as the motion is happening in the shoulder, the humeral head is moving within the glenoid cavity, the rotator cuff and some of the other muscles in this area, their job is to work to stabilize this as the movement is occurring. So we want to check this muscle group and see, hey, is there anything different between these two sides that might lead to the hypothesis that the dynamic stabilizers on one side are doing more than what the ones are doing on the other side? And if so, let's work dynamic stability on that side to be able to improve that so that when you go to press, the shoulder's getting more of a stabilizing protective effect that allows you to then press forward. So those are kind of the ways that we would do that. And the way that we test stability is like in person, we're doing specialized tests with dynamometers. Um, People not in person, we're using bottoms up kettlebell because
Mhm.
the bottoms up kettlebell challenges
It
stability.
really does.
You can't just grip and rip your way through this. Like it really brings out the stability demands in there.
So much so that like just as a quick example, we're working with our the special operators that we work with, and these guys can like move weight.
Yeah,
Like they are strong men, they can move weight, but you put a 15-pound kettlebell in their hand and it starts to show like there is a lack of stability in some of them where one guy couldn't get 2 reps and the
right,
but on the other side he got like 15 and he
right.
was like whoa 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 what's happening and it's like haha it shows it like it just showed you what you're missing and that
Yeah,
we can help and all those things but
absolutely.
the upside down kettlebell is ruthless.
It's humbling,
Yeah.
and for a lot of people, the debate may be, well, like the reason it is that way is because it's a new implement, it's a new movement. Like I haven't trained a bottoms up kettlebell press before. Well, you got 15 on your right and 3 on your left with a new implement.
Yeah.
So that tells me that even more so, like dynamic stability is lacking, and you have the inability to adapt to newer things from the lack of dynamic stability. So
Hmm.
now we have two factors leading to that hypothesis being ruled in. So now
Hmm.
it's like I'll hit my head on it even further to say that this is something that should be addressed.
Hmm.
So from a combination of all those things, we successfully get people back to benching pain-free
Hmm.
and better than they ever had before.
Hmm.
So, kind of quick recap, first two things, look at your overall programming, see is there enough variability in it? Are you using barbells, dumbbells? Do you have variability in intensity? In your overall programming, do you have some type of balance with horizontal pulling to match the horizontal pressing? Second thing, modify the range that you're pressing through as needed
Hmm.
until that discomfort starts to decrease. Uh, and the weight, which we kind of talked about in point one. And then the other points are looking at, well, what is your dominant arm? And it's kind of funny, right? It's a toss up of, is it the dominant arm that typically gets sore? Is it the non-dominant arm that gets sore?
Hmm.
That's been dependent. Like the research will say your dominant arm is 2.8 times more likely to get injured. I've seen it go both ways. Because like if you're working at 90% intensity and you're using a barbell and one arm is dominant uh, dominant horizontal presser compared to the other side, and you go to press and this one has more capacity, that means that the other side is having to work harder.
Hmm.
So like it may be 90%, but in that 90%, this one's doing not a ton, like it's not doing its max effort, where the left side is doing its max effort to
Hmm.
be able to get that side up there with it. So it
Hmm.
could be that the non-dominant side, when you're training, is actually trying to train harder to keep up with the side that is trained better or
Hmm.
has more capacity. It could be the inverse of that, that the dominant side is irritated because it's doing more of the work. And the solution is going, hey, can we even out the workload
Hmm.
a little bit? And that's where the testing
Hmm.
will help to get to that. And then dynamic stability with the bottoms up kettlebell. And again, it's in the YouTube video.
Yeah.
If you want to see those things in action, that'll be linked to the show
Hmm.
notes.
Perfect. My
Yeah.
hope story has to do with benching, so can I share?
You can,
Okay.
yes.
Um, so I've never really trained my bench press. I've, done push-ups for years and we bench pressed maybe twice in softball when I was in high school, but apart from that, like never really trained my bench press, whatever. Um, I PR'd my bench press, which I was really excited about. And not even like a couple days later, and now if you're a faithful listener, you know that I like to talk about our nephews and how I just like want to stay in competition with them. And not even like a couple days later, our nephew in Pennsylvania, who was a freshman in high school, messaged me that he also PR'd his bench press and it was the same weight that I was. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, tried so hard. I PR'd and then it's just showing that he is catching up to me
Yeah.
and probably gonna beat me within the next like 6 months. But that's okay because I'm excited for his growth. But
Yeah. And you're
yeah,
playing the long game.
yeah,
Yeah. And we'll have to factor in like body weight to pressing ratios and
yeah.
figure out like
The
the
challenge is
relative
they're
weight
they're
and
gonna start to get close to my they're both starting to get close to my body
yeah.
weight too. So it like
Yeah.
there's very few things that I'm gonna be able to like beat them in,
Right.
but
We'll find something.
we'll find something. I think a little tangent. If you know, last summer we did like a nephew's weekend where they came up and we did a fitness competition, the four of us. And last summer I beat them both on the assault bike
Yeah.
sprint, and so I'm thinking I just need to train that for the next like couple months before we do it again, and
Smart.
maybe I'll still be able to beat them in an echo bike or assault bike sprint.
There we go.
Anyways, that's my little hope story. What's
Oh, I
yours?
love it. So my hub story is also related to bench pressing. Because about a week ago, and to the point earlier of like getting people to bench better and more weight, one of our athletes who happens to be a special operator, and the reason I say that is so that you know that like it's easy to PR something when it's new.
Mm,
Because if you haven't done it before, like if you've never bench pressed and you go and you bench an empty barbell, that's a PR,
hmm.
right? The further that you become trained and experienced in lifting and or whatever your sport is, it is harder to PR. Like you get near like your top PR as a trained athlete, and you're working for months to add 2.5 pounds
Hmm.
onto it. So it is like the more trained you are, the more difficult it is to PR. And this one particular athlete, he he played college football. He's been benching for a while,
Hmm.
and he is, you know, 40s, 50s. I'll just leave it in that range. And he is on track to hit a lifetime PR with his bench press.
What?
And the only reason I wanted to share that as my hope story is because so often we hear these experts saying that, well, you should stop lifting like that because you're not gonna PR.
Hmm.
Like those days are over for you. Well, here's a very trained individual who has been very trained for a long time, who has worked on this movement, who is now getting ready to hit a lifetime PR of that movement.
Yeah.
And I get it, like, okay, it's one person, well, it can be a lot more people,
Hmm.
right? Because there is so much science showing adaptability, resiliency, progressive overload, like the things that we know
Hmm.
that are like fundamental principles in performance, in rehab, in strength and conditioning. We focus on those and then add the little nuances to it as needed to make it specific for that type of injury or for that person. Uh, you can keep progressing,
Hmm.
right? So I just want to put that out there that like it can happen. It is happening. That's one example. We have hundreds of more
Hmm.
examples, and I think we're going to continue to see that as people continue to train longer than what was previously done, right?
Yeah.
Because like we're kind of in this weird generation where the older population, like if they're still working out or training or competing, it's because they have done the opposite of the advice that they've gotten
Yeah.
their entire life,
Hmm.
which makes it completely incredible.
Hmm.
Like, oh my God, like you're deadlifting, you're in a powerlifting competition, you're 85. Yeah, because they did not listen to what
Yeah.
their
They're
providers told
outliers.
them. That, okay, I heard you. I'm going to keep doing that though.
Hmm.
what I think we're going to see is now there's more things coming out about the benefits of doing that. So now it's almost like as we continue to get older, we're going to see more and more people doing this, and it's gonna change the textbooks. It's already changing the textbooks. It's gonna like flip this whole paradigm around. So stay tuned.
I just want to say booyah.
Booyah!
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I hope more people can be like that special operator.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank y'all for listening. We hope that this helped you, Tony, and any other person who enjoys bench pressing or push-ups or anything like that. We hope that this helped you and that the YouTube video in our show notes can also help you.
Have a great week, and remember, every day is not just a day to be hopeful, but an opportunity to become hope.
The Hope Not Know podcast is meant for educational, informational, and personal development purposes only and does not constitute any health or medical advice. If you're looking for specific advice, connect with us to work with a Hope coach. The Hope Not Know podcast shall not be liable or responsible for any loss or damage allegedly arising from any information or suggestions in this podcast.